30-year-old Jen Sebena was married, by all accounts happy, and didn't have an enemy in the world. Fellow officers say she was the kind of cop most people actually love to see coming.
Her smile was infectious around the station.
Just a very good person who wanted to help people.
In or out of uniform, Jen Sebena was always there for people. She even served as church leader in a youth group.
She had like a group of girls that she would just keep track of, to keep tabs on, but you never felt like you were just a number in her like book. It was always just, you know, you were her favorite. She was the most fun-loving, caring, energetic person that you would ever meet.
Her husband, Ben, a Marine and Purple Heart war hero, was seriously injured in Iraq.
A motor round came down. I looked down at my knee and my pants are just soaked in blood. I look over and my arm is drooping off my body. I'm just holding by a couple of tendons. Shrapnel ripped right through it.
Ben spent months in the hospital, but in this YouTube video done for his church, Ben credits Jen with saving his life.
I came back home to Wisconsin and started spending more time with Jen, and our love flourished.
Just hours before her murder, Ben texted using his pet name for Jen, Beto, writing, "Merry Christmas, Beto." Jen writes back, "Eve, ha." A few minutes later, Ben texts Jen again. "Well, call me if you get too bored. I love you. Merry Christmas." Jen writes back, "I love you too." Smiley face. A little more than 5 hours later, Ben texts Jen again. This time, there is panic in his words. "Baby, are you okay? They just said an officer is down in Tosa." Jen does not respond. 9 minutes later, Ben sends another text. "Baby, please text or call me. I'm scared." Still no response at 5:51 a.m. Ben sends one last desperate message. "Babe, please." Minutes later, Ben calls the Wauwatosa Police Department in a panic. Dispatch can't reach her either. The department quickly tracks her squad car to the parking lot of the fire department, where police would often park to fill out paperwork.
1601 Underwood Avenue.
Cops from Jen's watch were first on the scene.
They are requesting backup for an ambush. Officer down.
It took only minutes for her fellow officers to get there, but when they found her, it was already too late.
Can't imagine what those officers immediately went through when they came upon her in that parking lot.
Officer Jen Sebena had been shot hours earlier.
How was her body found?
She was laying on a cold, wet parking lot. She was shot multiple times in her head and in her face. It's just not right for her to have been left like that.
This young, beautiful woman shot in the face. Did that add insult to the injury?
Yeah, it does. It's not a normal homicide.
The attack, calculated and cold.
There was no indication based on the medical examiner's report that Jennifer wasn't dead from the first 2 rounds that were fired. There was no reason to remove her gun to shoot her in the face.
But who would be so vicious to this loving wife and beloved police officer in the early morning hours of Christmas Eve?
Clearly indicates that it was very personal.
Cops started tracking footprints in the snow found in the parking lot as detectives deliver the tragic news to her husband Ben at the station.
How did he react?
He was visibly upset. He was emotional, as you would expect him to be.
Wonderful person. She was helping me. She was always helping me.
Just hours before Jen was assassinated, Ben tells detectives he kissed his smiling wife goodbye for the last time.
How was she when she left yesterday?
Happy. And she was happy. We hugged and did a big hug and a kiss.
Cops are baffled. Then a break that would turn the case upside down. Detectives start checking surveillance cameras in the area around the shooting. Suddenly, they spot a familiar vehicle. This black Prius with black rims.
His vehicle is basically tracked through Department of Transportation cameras from locations up near their residence and all the way down through the freeways and through the side streets to where it appears on camera a block away from the murder scene.
Early Christmas Eve morning, Officer Jen Sebena lays in the freezing cold snow, ambushed.
In my head, I was obsessed with the fact that she was lying out in the rain. And I couldn't get out of my head. It ate me alive for months after the fact that she was lying out in the rain all alone.
You wanted to protect her from the rain.
Yeah.
Her brothers in blue are heartbroken.
I looked at all of the younger officers almost like my kids and tell all the families how we were going to keep them safe. And I failed. I failed miserably in this case. I didn't keep her safe.
And when they deliver the news to her husband at 7:03 a.m. that morning, he's inconsolable. Wauwatosa police are baffled. Officer Sebena seemed to be loved by all. Could there be a crazed cop killer on the loose? Investigators don't think so. The 3 shots to the face tell them something different.
It clearly indicates that it was very personal.
Police track footprints in the snow at the scene. At first, it leads nowhere. Then a break. Detectives begin checking surveillance cameras in the area around the shooting. Suddenly, they spot a familiar vehicle, this black Prius with black rims. Who is it? Unbelievably, the Prius looks identical to the one Jennifer's husband Ben drives.
His vehicle is basically tracked through Department of Transportation cameras from locations up near their residence and all the way down through the freeways and through the side streets to where it appears on camera a block away from the murder scene.
Ben's called back down to the station. It's 4:30 in the afternoon on Christmas Day. He rushes over without hesitation. Ben's there to get answers about what happened to his wife. Instead, he gets questions.
Ben, something happened that morning, and only you know what happened here.
I do not.
Ben, I know
You're upsetting me with the fact
I
that you think
apologize. I don't mean any disrespect, Ben. Ben, I don't mean any disrespect.
If there's anything I can explain to you is that I loved her. There's no rage, there was no outburst ever directed at her, and I never would, because I had such true love for her that I couldn't hurt her.
Despite Ben's denial, cops go to Jen and Ben's house. They find footprints in the snow there too, but at first they come up empty inside. Detectives go back to grilling Ben later that Christmas Day.
I would never have hurt her. If I was there, I would have saved her ass. I would have stepped out of the way. I would have done anything to stop this from happening.
He made so many different statements that it's difficult for me to really gauge how much of it was true and how much of it wasn't.
Now convinced Ben's the killer, police go back to the house again for a closer look. This time they hit the jackpot, literally finding the smoking gun stuffed in the ceiling.
Hidden behind several pieces of insulation in the rafters of the basement, we located both the 9mm Makarov style weapon, and we located Jennifer's duty weapon.
Cops would soon learn Ben was hiding another very dark secret.
I was a Marine, and we're trained to kill. We're trained that death is okay.
In this YouTube video made by his church before Jennifer's murder, the former Marine who fought in Afghanistan and Iraq reveals he's now battling PTSD.
The first time I came back from Iraq, I was extremely angry and very lost in my ways. I was scared out of my mind, and I was angry all the time.
But was his dark and lonely world so bleak it made him kill the one person who loved him unconditionally?
I wonder, like, when he kissed her goodbye when she went to work that night, did he have an idea that this was going to happen?
I think the war and PTSD did make a contribution to his acting out and murdering his wife. However, I don't think that was sufficient enough explanation.
Dr. Ashok Badi, a board-certified psychiatrist for more than 40 years, is an expert on PTSD. He never interviewed Ben Sebena, but after looking at the case, tells Crime Watch Daily he thinks Ben was afraid of losing Jennifer. Prosecutor Mark Williams claims Ben Sebena was insanely jealous and angry about his wife's success as a police officer.
One of the things that no one knew until he told us is that he had been stalking her. And he said a lot of this was to, because of the jealousy was motivating him. He wanted to find out what she was doing. He obviously made a choice at some point that he would have to kill her in order not to lose her.
Jennifer was very professional. She was friendly but never flirtatious with anybody that I saw. He was struggling in his own life as far as to get a successful career or job. And of course, she had hers all laid out. So I think that was a source of friction probably between them.
Jennifer had only been with the department for a little less than 2 years, and in public, she and Ben seemed to be a married couple madly in love.
My first encounter with him was actually at Jennifer's swearing in. And the two of them were like giddy teenagers in love in all outward appearances, holding hands and giggling and staring into each other's eyes.
Remember when cops first told Ben Sebena about his wife's death? He flew into a rage. Now, cops believe Ben was just trying to throw them off his track.
He flipped over the interview table in a fit of rage. And I think that was just something he probably thought would be appropriate or something that somebody who just found that out would do. I don't think it was because he was that angry or that upset.
Putting on an act for you.
Yes.
Finally, at 6:52, the day after Christmas, following 60 grueling hours of interrogation, Ben Sebena comes clean.
Confession time, right? Well, I did it. I did it.
Confessing to shooting the woman he claimed to love, twice in the back of the head, then pulling out her very own police pistol and firing 3 more rounds right into her face.
Do you think she knew who killed her?
I can only hope that it was quick, that it was painless, that her last thoughts were nothing but positive, happy as she walked out of that fire station, ready to continue on her shift, ready to keep doing the job that she loved.
And the former Marine war hero now sits calmly describing the vicious attack to the same detectives his beloved wife used to call her brothers in blue.
Shot her, and she went down. And I went up to take another shot, and she started getting up, and she started going for a gun, so I went for a gun. And then I shot her with the same pistol again, and then I grabbed the other one and shot her a couple more times just to make sure she was actually out.
Do you think she knew it was you?
I don't think so.
Ben's cold confession sends a chill through Jennifer's fellow cops.
Why did you shoot her in the face with her own gun?
That was just because I wanted to make sure she was dead.
He took the extra time and effort to remove her gun out of her duty holster, and while looking down at his wife, shot her 3 times in the face. That's personal. That means something. That's premeditated.
It's the day after Christmas, and 60 grueling hours of police interrogation finally have Ben Sebena ready to cave.
Confession time, right? Well, I did it.
What Sebena did was brutally execute his pretty young wife, Jennifer, a police officer.
She was very well loved.
During his interrogation, Ben Sebena shocks detectives again, telling them he was the one who was supposed to die.
I wish I could have just killed myself.
Why didn't you?
Because she would have killed herself after that.
Believe it or not, Sebena claims that's the reason he executed his wife. In his warped reality, Ben tells detectives he believed if Jennifer killed herself, she would go to hell.
Part of me wanted her to be in heaven, so I didn't want her to be dealing with it anymore because it was just too much for her.
But Dr. Ashok Badi, a board-certified psychiatrist, has a hard time believing Jennifer Sebena's vicious murder was a mercy killing.
It's a lot of hatred. If you want to make sure someone is not suffering, you shoot them in the heart. As a soldier, he would know that shooting someone in the face is not the way to kill someone. That's anger.
And Sebena showed a terrifying glimpse of that anger when detectives left him alone in the room with the camera still rolling.
If I ever make a stupid documentary, this is the photo I'm going to take. The mind, I'll kill her.
Ben Sebena is charged with first-degree intentional homicide. He first pleads not guilty, then changes it to not guilty by reason of insanity.
The defense has to prove is that that Benjamin could not determine right from wrong.
Cops say everything Sebena did after gunning down his wife proves he knew the difference. Running from the scene, hiding the guns, denying it through 60 hours of interrogation.
If there's anything I can explain to you is that I loved her. There's no rage, there was no outburst ever directed at her, and I never would, because I had such true love for her that I couldn't hurt her.
He came across as somebody who felt as though he was going to get away with this. He believed he was smarter than everybody in the room. He believed he was smarter than everybody on this police department up until the point that he confessed.
Ben Sebena eventually changes his plea in court, too.
What's your plea to that charge? Guilty, Your Honor.
What did Benjamin ultimately plead to, and what was his sentence?
Benjamin pled to first-degree intentional homicide.
Ben Sebena's mother pleaded with the judge to remember her son was sick.
Our military is skilled in training our young men and women how to fight and to kill. But when their service contracts are fulfilled and they come back home, they fail to teach them how to live again.
And Sebena's parents sent an impassioned 7-page letter writing in part, "We ask for mercy. Ben, in his illness, thought he was helping his wife." Then, just before sentencing, Ben Sebena offered his apology to Jennifer's family.
I was in a place where I didn't have anything else left for me. And after our discussion, I didn't want to do that to her, and I'm sorry that I took away your daughter, and I'm sorry I took away your sister. If I could replace my life with hers right now, I would do it.
The judge sentences Ben Sebena to life without the possibility of parole for 35 years.
Mr. Sebena will be about 65 or 66 years old when he's allowed to petition for release.
The fact that Jennifer was such a good person, and through our investigation we learned, and that Ben was truly an evil person. It's not like this was a crime of anger in the moment, a crime of passion in the moment. This was a calculated, evil person laying in wait for somebody that they supposedly loved, and then just completely violently killing her.
I just wonder if every day, if he stops to think about what happened.
Eats away at him?
Yeah, I hope so, because he destroyed something beautiful for whatever reason, and not a good reason.
Jennifer Sebena seemed to love everyone, and everyone seemed to love her. She only served as an officer for 2 years, but she touched so many hearts, especially those behind the Wauwatosa police badge.
As we are present here today, remembering Jen. As we are present here today, remembering Honor Jen, a piece of us is gone, one that can never be replaced. Rest in peace, our sister in blue. You have joined the ranks of heaven's angels. We have your watch from here.